Q Review, print speaking to the blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the National Podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @CuneReview, that is @CuandReview. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@cunereview.com. That is INFORMATION or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
From the National, Friday the 6th of December 2024, from the news section. Dundee University boss quits with immediate effect amid £30 million deficit. Article written by Xander Elliots. The principal of Dundee University has resigned with immediate effect as the institution faces a funding deficit of some £30 million, even after cost-cutting measures. Professor Ian Gillespie also stepped down as Vice-Chancellor of the university on Friday after nearly 4 years in the two roles. It comes less than 1 month after Gillespie sent an email to staff warning them to prepare for a significant deficit in this financial year. The then principal said a significant drop in recruitment of international students was partly to blame for the deficit, along with other factors. Cost-cutting measures being tried included a recruitment freeze and reducing operational expenditure, Gillespie said. The University of Dundee employs more than 3,000 people. The email read, "However, even with these measures, we could still be looking at a deficit for this financial year in the range of £25 million to £30 million. We must take further action now to address our financial stability and long-term future. Given the profile of our costs, it is inevitable this will mean a reduction in our staffing levels. This will be a very difficult period, certainly for this financial year and next." He said at the time that he would keep staff updated during what he termed as an unprecedented set of challenges for the university. However, on Friday, it was announced that he had resigned with immediate effect. A press release from the university stated, "Professor Gillespie served for almost 4 years as Principal and Vice-Chancellor. During that time, the university has been named Scotland's University of the Year by the Herald and the Daily Mail. Professor Shane O'Neill, as Deputy Vice-Chancellor and Provost, will take on the leadership of the University Executive Group." That article was written by Xander Elliots and read to you by Elizabeth. From the National, Friday the 6th of December 2024, from the Politics section. Question time. Audience member clashes with Nigel Farage on migration. Article written by Adam Robertson. Nigel Farage clashed with an audience member on Question Time over migration on Thursday night's programme. Broadcast from Lincoln, it came after a new Westminster poll showed Reform with a lead over Labour for the first time. During a debate on border control, one member said, "I just recently went to the Holocaust Centre just outside of Newark. It was a real wake-up call, because Germany in the 1930s, they were suffering economic difficulties because of the reparations of the First World War. And those people were desperate. And somebody was saying, look, the problem with our society is the Jews. That's what's causing the problems. We will blame the Jews because they are ruining our country. Go forward now to this country. We're blaming migrants. We're blaming immigrants. Migrants, illegal or legal, weren't responsible for austerity. That was the Conservative government. Migrants and illegals were not responsible for Brexit. Migrants were not responsible for Liz Truss's failure of leadership. And don't forget, because of those populist policies in the 30s, a certain Adolf Hitler was elected. And if we follow the same rhetoric, the same blaming of migrants, we will go in the same way, and the future of that path is very, very bleak." The response was met with applause from the audience and from former Downing Street Press Secretary Alistair Campbell, who was also appearing on the programme. Farage proceeded to hit back at the audience member, saying the last Labour government deported people who came here illegally in their tens of thousands. The point is, if people come legally and they work, that's fine. If people come because they're genuinely refugees, we've always opened our doors as a country. More than anybody in the world historically to that. Tens of thousands of undocumented young males crossing the English Channel are not refugees in any sense of the word. He added that the UK should deport people who are not refugees and who are not in the country legally. The conversation eventually turned back to the same audience member, with Campbell saying the man had been talking about the demonisation of migrants. The audience member told Farage, "What I said was you were using the language of demonising. I wasn't talking about Jews, I was talking about migrants. You made the point about illegal migrants coming in their tens of thousands. This year it's 40,000. That's a minute proportion of the 1 million immigrants you're talking about, and consequently, if that's your biggest beef, of 40,000 people coming to this country, your policies fall on the wayside because you're talking nonsense." Farage interrupted to say, "Let them all in," before the audience member said they were coming for a life. In a post on Twitter, X, Campbell labelled the audience member man of the match. The Reform UK leader told the man he was wrong before host Fiona Bruce interjected to move on to another question. Campbell and Farage also clashed on Brexit, as the former told the MP he had never taken responsibility for what you've won. Campbell said, "I'll tell you what you are. You're somebody, and we've seen it already tonight, who will exploit any problem going for your own political ends. Brexit was a fundamentally damaging thing to this country. That is your one legacy. And you now don't even want to talk about it because even you know it's damaged this country. It's made us poorer, it's made us weaker, and it's hit our standing in the world." Farage had labelled Campbell the worst loser in the world and to get over Brexit, as it happened 8 years ago. That article was written by Adam Robertson and read to you by Elizabeth. From The National, Friday the 6th of December 2024, from the news section. Scotland weather. Met Office issues yellow warning for snow. Article written by Adam Robertson. The Met Office has issued a fresh yellow weather warning for snow in parts of Scotland as Storm Dara approaches. The forecaster has issued a warning for snow across central Scotland, which covers the likes of Stirling, as well as parts of the Highlands, such as Aviemore. It warned that snow is expected to bring difficult driving conditions and disruption to higher routes. The warning will be in place from 8 p.m. on Friday, December the 6th, and last until 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. Some roads and railways are likely to be affected with longer journey times by road, bus and train services, the Met Office said. Flood alerts have also been issued by SEPA in the following areas: Aberdeenshire and Aberdeen City, Argyll and Bute, Ayrshire and Arran, Central, Dumfries and Galloway, Dundee and Angus, Edinburgh and Lothians, Fife, Scottish Borders, Tayside, West Central Scotland. An amber warning for wind was previously issued for parts of southern Scotland, which will be in place from 3 a.m. on Saturday until 9 p.m. the same day. That article was written by Adam Robertson and read to you by Elizabeth. From The National, Friday the 6th of December 2024, from the Culture section. Scottish artist to have work sent to the moon on SpaceX rocket. Article written by Adam Robertson. A Scottish artist is set to feature in a project in which his art will be sent to the moon. Lewis Deeney, originally from Dumbarton, is to be part of the Lunar Codex project, in which his work will be digitally archived and sent into space. Speaking to The National, the 30-year-old explained the opportunity comes following an exhibition he was involved with in the United States this year. It took place at a venue called 33 Contemporary in Florida as part of the Geometric Abstraction exhibition, he explained. The exhibition will be included in the Codex Polaris, scheduled to launch to the lunar southern hemisphere in September 2025, aboard the SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket. The catalogue, featuring work from 35,000 contemporary artists from across the globe, will be digitally archived and sent to the moon. The mission of the Lunar Codex is to archive contemporary art, literature, music and film on the moon to create a cultural time capsule of humanity's creative legacy. But Dini has one key thing on his mind he's hoping to achieve. Personally, I would love aliens to find it, he says, laughing. That really excites me. Just imagine aliens thousands of years from now travelling across the universe and wondering what it's all about. They would find my patent along with 30,000 other people's artwork. The project is part of NASA's Artemis program, with works sent through a series of missions that will deposit digital archives on the lunar surface. Dini was speaking to the National ahead of his latest exhibition, Step into Abstraction, taking place at Glasgow's Salt Space Cooperative Gallery on Saturday, December the 7th and Sunday, December 8th. He explained, "It's an immersive art exhibition, so it's a series of paintings on the walls, but then I'll be adding in different reflective services like mirrors and using projectors to create a digital video of paintings merging into one another and projecting this onto the painting. The idea is that it feels like you're stepping inside my painting. The projectors will be projecting onto you and the paintings, so there will be an element of movement going through the exhibition. It really helps to make the space come alive." Dini hopes that the idea of interactivity will help encourage people to come along, as it offers something that little bit different. "It's my first time doing an exhibition like this," he says. "Video art has been around for a few decades, but movement was uncommon, and we can bring that to life through digital media." The artist was also pleased to hear the announcement from the Scottish Government that a further £34 million would be made available for the culture sector. Finance Secretary Shona Robertson confirmed the news during her budget announcement on Wednesday, having faced calls from Scottish Labour to increase the funding available for the industry. Although Dini admitted there is still a long way to go in terms of seeing how the money is spent, he feels it was the right move. He said, "It's always good when there's more funding. I'm very sceptical of how the government manages its money, so I don't know the details, but it is hopeful and a step in the right direction." That article was written by Adam Robertson and read to you by Elizabeth. From the National, Friday the 6th of December 2024, from the news section. Vikings' Scandinavian influence on Scotland explored in new book. Article written by Alistair Ferguson. A collection of research aiming to better understand the Vikings' history and their Scandinavian impact on Scotland through archaeological finds and scientific analysis has been released. The analysis correlated in the book guides the reader through the latest interdisciplinary research from across the country around multiple topics, including the arrival and settlement of the Vikings, their politics, and even their environmental impact. Some of the notable research includes a better understanding of the Vikings' influence across central Scotland, how they lived amongst Scots, the introduction of a silver economy, and the semi-industrial level of fish processing. The Viking Age in Scotland revisits the 1998 Scottish Scandinavian Archaeological Survey, which is widely regarded as a significant resource for Viking history in Scotland, and includes updated discoveries like the Galloway Hoard, which was unearthed in 2014. Advances in scientific analysis over the last 2 decades have greatly improved researchers' understanding of Vikings' daily life between the late 8th and 15th centuries, an expert has said. According to the book's co-author, Tom Horn, who wrote and edited The Viking Age in Scotland with Elizabeth Pearce and Rachel Barrowman, a lot of what was believed about the Vikings in Scotland 20 years ago still holds true today. Horn said, "We're much better now with the level of forensic detail that we can take from the site, that the story we can tell now, it's far more nuanced." He explained that the thematic sections of the book allow internal debates as multiple stories can be told from the same data. What we thought 20 years ago in the Vikings of Scotland, and a lot of that's still correct, but there's a lot of subtleties that we can get into now. Horn said, "As soon as you get to subtleties and a huge amount of data that we can gather today, there's going to be different interpretations available. I think that represents a sort of good modern way of looking at things and saying it's not an easy story. Things are changing and there's a lot more grey areas now." One example of recent discoveries which have helped researchers gain a better insight into Scandinavia's influences on Scotland was the discovery of a Viking cemetery at Carrick Golf Course in Loch Lomond in 2007. Evidence of Mesolithic hunter-gatherers, Bronze Age cremations, farming and craft activity, and more than 80 burials found beneath the present golf course helped paint the picture of a long period of ancient settlement at the site. Pairing the findings of the Loch Lomond Cemetery with the Galloway hoard, Horne explained these historic discoveries over the last 20 years show that Viking influence isn't just reserved for the northwest of Scotland. These burials are still being discovered, he said. They tell that the Vikings are not just in the traditional Western Islands or are in the Northern Islands, but also in the western mainland of Scotland. They're also close to the Main, the central belt now, as well. Horne explained that the book explores areas like Dumbarton, the River Clyde, the River Leven and Loch Lomond, which all show some evidence of Scandinavian influence through Viking activity. He went on to explain that the book also explores the relationship between Vikings and Scots, saying, Viking Scotland is maybe quite a bit later than we thought. Horne, who has been a historian and an archaeologist for nearly 20 years, said that newer research shows a better understanding of the relationships and that Vikings lived with the population and squatted in their houses. It's not just like Vikings coming in, taking everything over, wiping everything out, Horne said. He added, it's a bit more negotiation with Picts or Gaelic-speaking Scots. Research in the book indicates that Vikings in Scotland could have been in the country for up to 100 to 200 years later than previously thought. One example of this research is by Horne, who researched the historic economy and said that there is evidence of trading of silver which came from other countries, like Arabic coins, across Scotland, and even signs of trading fish at an industrial level. The big changes that come in when the Vikings start, they bring in their kind of silver economy, a very particular type of silver economy, where it's this bullion economy, where you're weighing up cut-up bits of silver. You're getting these Arabic coins or these dirhams that are coming through. Storrock has dirhams, Scalehorde in Orkney has got dirhams in it, and these have come through these supranational international trade networks, and you're seeing Scotland is very closely connected. He added, we're seeing all these economic connections and how that they're expressed either through silver that you find in hoards and single finds, or later on you get middens with thousands, millions of fish bones in them, because there's sort of semi-industrial processing of fish that's used to pay taxes to earls. And these earls might be paying taxes to the Norwegian kingdom as well. That article was written by Alistair Ferguson and read to you by Elizabeth.
From the National, Monday, 9th of December 2024. News section. Aberdeen, Scotland's most affordable city named in new study by Adam Robertson, multimedia journalist. Scotland's most affordable city has been named as part of a new study. Researchers with tax accountant analyse cost of living factors such as rent and average net salary as part of a new study ranking the most affordable cities across the UK. With no Scottish city featured in the top 10, Aberdeen was named as Scotland's most affordable city, coming in at 20th place in the UK overall. Researchers created a combined cost of living score using a salary to cost ratio with both weighted at 50% to ensure affordable living costs and good earning potential are valued equally. Overall, Aberdeen scored 69.93, with Aberdeen, Wales ranked as the UK's most affordable with a score of 79.89. The top 10 were as follows: Aberdeen, Wales; Lewis, England; Lichfield, England; Tunbridge Wells, England; Uxbridge, England; Sutton, England; Whitehaven, England; Bridgewater, England; Kingston upon Thames, England; Southend-on-Sea, England. Astif Malik, Director of Tax Accountants, said, considering the ongoing cost of living crisis, individuals seeking to maximise their disposable income should consider factors beyond salary alone. Living costs and expenses for essentials like rents and utilities must be taken into consideration. Our research shows there are many cities and towns offering a compelling balance that can greatly enhance quality of life without giving up the comforts of living in or living close to a big city. That article was by Adam Robertson. From the National, Monday, 9th of December 2024. News section. John Curtis, Labour's July victory makes it harder for Salwar to be First Minister, by Adam Robertson. John Curtis has said that Labour's general election victory in July has made it more difficult for Anas Salwar to become First Minister. It comes after polling released on Sunday found that John Swinney is on track to lead the SNP into a third decade of power in Holyrood in 2026. Figures showed that Scottish Labour would return just 20 MSPs, with just 21% of Scots saying they would vote Labour on the constituency ballot, down 9 points on Norstat's poll in August. It comes as polling also revealed support for Scottish independence at its highest level for 4 years, with 54% saying they would vote yes when undecided voters are removed. Writing in the Times, Curtis said, "The finger of blame for Scottish Labour's predicament points to number 10 Downing Street." In August, Sir Keir Starmer net approval rating stood at -5, while 33% believed he was doing a bad job. 28% reckoned he was doing a good one. Now his net rating stands at -32. It's true Starmer's score has also slipped from -8 in August to -17 now, but the decline has not been as steep as that for his UK counterpart. Far from easing Sarwar's path to Butte House, Labour's victory in July has seemingly made his task harder. Despite a positive showing for the SNP in the latest poll, Curtis did say that while the Scottish budget was a positive for the party, Swinney still has plenty to do to ensure a pro-independence majority in Holyrood in 2026. He added, expect Swinney to take every advantage he can of divisions between Westminster and Holyrood within Labour's ranks in the coming months. That article was by Adam Robertson. From the National, Monday, 9th of December 2024, news section. Scotland weather. Storm Dara causes disruption on cross-border trains, by Adam Robertson. Passengers have been warned to expect cancellation and delays to train services on the West Coast Main Line between London Euston and Scotland on Monday. Network Rail said this is because it's completing repairs to overhead line equipment in Polesworth, Warwickshire, following damage caused by Storm Dara. Services are being diverted via Birmingham while the work is taking place. Networks Rail West Coast South Route Operations Manager Chris Brom said, Storm Dara has wreaked havoc on the railway this weekend, and we're very sorry to passengers for the disruption to train services. This morning on the West Coast Main Line, as frontline teams continue with emergency repairs and the cleanup. Our engineers are working as fast as we can to stabilise a critical piece of the overhead line equipment in Polesworth. We're asking passengers to check before they travel, as some morning journeys between London, the West Midlands, the North West and Scotland may no longer take place or have altered timetables. That article was by Adam Robertson.
From the National, Monday the 9th of December, from the comment section. Campaigners against nuclear weapons are far from naive, by Bill Kidd. David Pratt's piece Independence Argument Needs to Be More Grown Up in This Parlous World, December 6, appeared uncharacteristically confused for a journalist whose work usually has a hallmark of not just analytical depth, but of breadth. By a rather tortuous route, he eventually got to his main point, that shifting England's nukes to somewhere else a few hundred miles away would not make Scotland safer. His use of language is rather unfortunate too. His perception that the nuclear debate is divided into camps of the grown-ups and the naive has, dare I say it, a touch of the straw dog tactic of the Student Debating Society about it. When I attended the United Nations to participate in the deliberations on the now live and extant Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, TPNW, in New York, Geneva and elsewhere, there is no naivety on display. 73 states have ratified the TPNW, and it is now international law. Of course, it would indeed be naive to suggest that states which have not ratified the TPNW are bound by it. They are not. However, international laws, non-binding as they are to those who do not sign up to them, can and do exert serious international diplomatic pressure on those who have not backed what, in global terms, is approaching an international consensus. One has only to look at the present diplomatic plight of Israel. Moreover, David Pratt's adults, I assume the likes of the UK Prime Minister and the President-elect of the United States, are not particularly effective standard-bearers of the often used but never quite defined international rules-based order. Quite who is exhibiting adult behaviour is becoming increasingly blurred. There is not a dog in the street that would have difficulty in placing Keir Starmer and Benjamin Netanyahu in a league of rule breakers, even if, as in the case of Israel, they have opted out of many of those rules. But back to our powerless world and the increasing, rather than decreasing, threat of thermonuclear war. If it had the potential to end civilization in the mid-20th century, today, in the 21st, it has the potential to be species-ending. Some species of insects might make it, but not Homo sapiens. As we approach 2025, international arms control architecture is in tatters. It was kicked off by Kennedy and Khrushchev, who stared over the precipice at a nuclear Armageddon, and then started the long process of building up some sort of arms control architecture. Over the next 2 decades or so, that architecture had real solid successes. The number of nuclear weapons and warheads decreased and, absolutely crucially, the nuclear-armed Russia and US were in constant dialogue. Today, it would appear US-Russia relations are in the deep freeze. This is an extraordinarily dangerous place to be in. The lived experience of someone far down the command food chain, acting on their own initiative, almost tipped the world into nuclear war. Parking the issues around the illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia and the skillful response of the Ukrainian armed forces to the attack, the inevitability of years of attritional grind and cost of lives, and the now widely accepted need for some sort of negotiated end or pause, there is a stark emergence of a nuclear dimension. We're now seeing iterations of nuclear war fighting scenarios like escalating to de-escalate being practiced, with Russia introducing fast, possibly hypersonic nuclear capability through conventionally armed missiles into the fight. That journey from Faslane to somewhere else in England would be an important part of the people of England reassessing the state that they live in. They would, as an inevitable and natural process for the first time since the end of empire, have to reassess what it means to live in a modern, post-imperial England. And that was a comment piece by Bill Kidd, who is the SNP MSP for Glasgow Annisland, and that piece was read today by me, Ian McKenna. From the National, Monday the 9th of December, from the comment section. Is Westminster stopping Scotland from tackling the drugs death crisis? By Simon MacLean. The Scotland I was raised in was a proud and resilient nation. We had a distinct identity shaped by a strong sense of community, empathy, and an unwavering commitment to facing life's challenges head on. Growing up, we were taught to embrace our differences, value diversity, and share what we had with those in need. Above all, we understood the imperative of taking responsibility, both individually and collectively. That Scotland feels distant at times, particularly when I reflect on the devastating issue of record drugs deaths. It's a crisis that speaks to a failure of leadership, policy and imagination, a problem crying out for bold action. Yet Scotland's Parliament too often finds itself constrained, its ability to act hindered by Westminster's overreach and a political system that lacks the tools, or the balls, to address our nation's challenges effectively. As many will know, Scotland currently has the highest drug death rate in Europe, a shocking statistic that demands immediate attention. Behind every number is a person, someone's child, parent or sibling. Communities across the country are being torn apart by addiction, and the ripple effects are devastating. Addressing this crisis should be a top priority for any government, but Holyrood's efforts are often undermined by a lack of autonomy. Drug policy remains a reserved matter, controlled by Westminster, which means Scotland is unable to implement the innovative and compassionate approaches it needs. Calls for decriminalisation or a public health-led approach to drug use have been repeatedly dismissed by Westminster, leaving us stuck with policies that are not fit for purpose. But are we really hamstrung, or is that simply a convenient political excuse? The Scotland I grew up in was a place where people took action to fix what was broken. People had a strong sense of what was right and wrong. They wouldn't have waited for permission to tackle a crisis. They would have rolled up their sleeves and done what was needed, regardless of outside opinions. In the schemes of Glasgow, there was a belief that by sticking together we could deal with whatever life threw at us. We didn't look for excuses or to deflect responsibility. We found solutions. That same spirit is what Scotland needs today. Westminster's control over drug policy is not just an inconvenience, it is a barrier to saving lives. The UK's punitive approach to drug use is out of step with Scotland's public health priorities, creating a disconnect that costs lives. This lack of autonomy undermines the principle of devolution. If Holyrood cannot address a crisis as urgent and localised as this, what is the point of having a Scottish Parliament at all? Scotland's Parliament must be empowered to make decisions that reflect the needs and values of the people it represents. On drug policy, this means taking a public health-led approach, free from Westminster's interference. Solutions exist. Other countries have shown that decriminalisation, regulation, harm reduction programmes and investment in treatment can significantly reduce drug deaths. Scotland has the expertise and the will to implement these policies, but without full control over drug policy, it is left with one hand tied behind its back. The Scotland I grew up in wouldn't have accepted this level of inaction. It wouldn't have waited for permission from Westminster or hidden behind excuses. It would have faced the problem directly with courage and determination. Scotland's drug death crisis is a test of our nation's resilience and resolve. Holyrood must use the freedoms it does have to act boldly, to take responsibility, and to implement the solutions that will save lives. Westminster's control is not just an inconvenience, it is a matter of life and death. But as we are showing with the new safe consumption facility in Glasgow, our prosecution system does enjoy autonomy from political interference, and, if we are willing to be brave, we will find ways to take positive action. Our forebears understood the value of taking responsibility. It's time for Scotland's Parliament to do the same, free from interference. Only then can we honour the values that define us as a nation and build a future where no more lives are needlessly lost. To stand by and do nothing surely makes us culpable. And that was a comment piece by Simon McLean, who is a former Serious Crimes and Drug Squad officer. He is now a spokesperson for Leap UK and Leap Scotland, Law Enforcement Action Partnership, and hosts a popular true crime podcast, Crime Time Inc., alongside former Deputy Chief Constable Tom Wood. Like Wood, McLean is also a successful author.
From the National, Tuesday the 10th of December 2024, from the news section. Scottish airports' key routes face disruption over Christmas due to strikes. Article written by Laura Hannett. Strikes by airport tanker drivers at Edinburgh Airport are set to take place over Christmas and New Year, with several key routes to face disruption. North Air fuel tankers drivers at the airport will go on strike over 19 days in a dispute over pay. A large number of key routes flying in and out of the airport will be impacted by the strikes, as North Air is the only fuel supply company providing services to domestic and long-haul flights from Edinburgh Airport. The strike action will start on December 18th at 5 a.m. and is planned to finish on January the 6th. North Air provides refuelling services for domestic and international airlines who fly into and out of Scotland's largest airport in Edinburgh. A number of key routes will be directly impacted, Unite said. Prestigious routes include United Airlines to New York and Emirates to Dubai, along with Logan Air's domestic routes to the islands. Unite has warned that North Air must present a better pay offer to avoid strikes during the end-of-year celebrations. It said North Air has declined to resume pay negotiations with the Unite to attempt to prevent travel disruption. Sharon Graham, Unite's General Secretary said, North Air is a highly profitable company that can fully afford to make a fair offer to our members, but has refused to do so. Unite will always support our members in their fight for better jobs, pay and conditions. The dispute centres around the company's rejection of a 4.5% pay offer, following several years of pay increases that fell below inflation. Carrie Binney, Unite Industrial Officer, said, North Air has no concern for their workers or the travelling public. Unite has had no option but to confirm imminent industrial action. North Air now has very limited time to resolve this dispute. The company's belligerence is at serious risk of causing widespread travel disruption at Edinburgh Airport over the festive season. The National has approached North Air for comment. And that article was written by Laura Hannett. The National, Tuesday the 10th of December 2024, from the news section. Scottish Greens urge Flamingo Land to drop Loch Lomond appeal. Article written by Laura Hannett. The Scottish Greens have called on Flamingo Land to not appeal the National Park Board's rejection of its new mega resort plans on a famous Scottish loch. Rejected on September the 16th, Flamingo Land has until December 16th to appeal the board's decision to the Scottish Government. Planned to be built on Loch Lomond, Flamingo Land's proposal included the construction of luxury lodges, 2 hotels, a water park, 370 parking spaces and a monorail. The campaign, led by the Scottish Greens, recorded no less than 155,000 objections for the developer to drop its plans. The local Scottish Green MSP, Ross Greer, commented, I hope that Flamingo Land finally see sense and finally drop their daft, destructive and unanimously rejected plans for good. They have put the people of Balloch through far too much stress and anxiety over the last decade. Now is the time to concede that the mega resort will never happen. Their proposals have always been unwanted, unworkable and completely unsuitable for a world-famous location like Loch Lomond. Greer added, Flamingo Land still owns Woodbank House at the far end of the proposed site. The house is in a sorry state of disrepair and there is a strong desire locally to see it restored. If the developers have plans to do that in a more suitable manner, I would be happy to speak to them and I am sure the Community Council would too. And that article was written by Laura Hannett. The National, Tuesday the 10th of December 2024, from the Politics section. Tories bid to strip asylum seekers of free bus travel in Scotland. Article written by Hamish Morrison. The Scottish Tories will today attempt to derail plans to give free bus travel to asylum seekers in a nasty political move. The party will force a vote on the issue and have accused the SNP of being out of touch for pursuing the policy, arguing the money would be better spent supporting pensioners with heating bills. But the Greens have accused the Tories of using asylum seekers as a political football as they attempt to win back support from Reform UK. Craig Hoy, the Scottish Tory finance spokesperson, said, squandering taxpayers' money on free bus travel for asylum seekers confirms how out of touch the SNP are. That's why we're forcing a vote on this budget measure this week in Parliament to show it is only the Scottish Conservatives who are on the side of the public on this issue. The Scottish Tories have previously claimed that the £2 million budgeted to provide asylum seekers with free bus travel could fund a winter heating support scheme for pensioners. It comes as the party struggles to combat the rise of Nigel Farage's Reform UK, which has capitalised on the Tory record on immigration in office. Despite hardline rhetoric on migration, the Tories presided over unprecedented levels of net migration, which Farage has used to his advantage. New Tory leader Kemi Badenoch last month claimed the party got it wrong on immigration. Greens MSP Maggie Chapman accused the Scottish Tories were trying to pit marginalised groups against each other. She added, they are using the rights of people seeking asylum as a political football. It is a transparent attempt to fan the flames of hate and division in a bid to win far-right votes from Reform. The Tories have tried to pretend that this is about supporting pensioners, but if that were remotely true, they wouldn't have spent the last 14 years wrecking our economy and inflicting cuts and austerity on vulnerable people. As a country, we have a moral responsibility to support and protect people who seek safety here and help them to rebuild their lives. Chapman said the money spent on the policy was a small amount and represented a compassionate step that will make a big difference to the lives of people who have been forced into state-sanctioned poverty by a punishing and cruel system. SNP MSP David Torrance said the Scottish Tories had their sums wrong because the money was set aside in the budget for the next financial year. He said, the Tories now appear to be calling for funding in the 2025 to 2026 budget to be used to pay for more spending this year. That shows a remarkable level of financial incompetence, even for the party of Liz Truss. A Scottish Government spokesperson said, extending free bus travel to people seeking asylum would support those who receive very limited support for living costs from the UK Government while waiting for an asylum decision, enabling them to access essential services and to contribute to their local community. This is set out as part of the 2025 to 2026 Scottish Budget, which delivers record investment to improve our NHS, provides universal winter heating support for pensioners, puts in place the mechanism to end the impact of the 2-child cap and increases investment in housing to deliver at least 8,000 new homes. And that article was written by Hamish Morrison. From The National, Tuesday the 10th of December 2024, from the news section. Larbert. Historic Scottish hotel and pub sold to new owner. Article written by Adam Robertson. A Scottish hotel dating back to 1856 and located next to a train station has been sold to new owners. Drysdale and Company hailed the sale of the Station Hotel, located in Larbert. The company said that after nearly 25 years of ownership by John Black, the iconic hotel adjacent to Larbert train station has been acquired by Butta Singh, a respected local businessman with deep roots in the community. Black said, "It's been a real pleasure being the custodian of the Station Hotel over the past 25 years. I want to thank all the wonderful customers who made this possible and wish Butta and his family every success as they continue its legacy. The property includes 11 bedrooms on the first floor and features a function room and a large beer garden. The agent said the business is well known for its welcoming atmosphere, with a lounge and restaurant serving meals throughout the day. Singh is already a well-established businessman as the owner of the award-winning Gulnar Tandoori restaurant. Stuart Drysdale, director of Drysdale and Company, said, "We are delighted to have facilitated the sale of the Station Hotel and are confident that Mr. Singh's extensive experience in hospitality and strong ties to the community will ensure the continuation of this beloved establishment's legacy. The value of the sale was not disclosed." And that article was written by Adam Robertson. From The National, Tuesday the 10th of December 2024, from the news section. Scottish Water installs 1,000 new sewage monitors after concerns raised. Article written by Steph Braun. More than 1,000 new sewage monitors have been installed across Scotland after concerns were raised about the operation of storm overflows by an environment watchdog. Earlier this year, Environmental Standards Scotland, ESS, found that steps must be taken to improve the operation, monitoring and the regulatory guidance of storm overflow drains in the country. Storm overflows are part of the sewage system and are designed to reduce the risk of sewers flooding homes and businesses. Spills from storm overflows can pose a risk to the environment and to human health. A report for ESS said that the Combined Sewer Overflow CSO Meadowhead Treatment Works in North Ayrshire spilled wastewater 365 times on 124 different days last year. Almost half, 49%, of 142 storm overflows spilled more than 50 times over the course of 2023, and 32% spilled more than 100 times. However, the report found there is no comprehensive publicly available information on the scale and environmental impact from spills from storm overflows in Scotland. Scottish Water has now confirmed more than 1,000 new sewer monitors have been installed across the wastewater system as part of a £500 million programme of investment to transform its network. The organisation said the new monitors will help give unprecedented levels of information about how the wastewater network is performing, helping Scottish Water to avert flooding and pollution and plan targeted investment in future improvements. Boss has added that a 15-strong team is also now in place nationwide to take information from the monitors and work proactively to prevent flooding and pollution incidents, which can be caused by blockages in the sewer network. There are plans for a further 700 monitors to be installed by the end of next year. Professor Simon Parsons, Scottish Water's Director of Environment, Planning and Assurance, said, "The installation of the new monitors is a key milestone for Scottish Water as we continue to invest in massive improvements to our wastewater infrastructure that help improve Scotland's water environment. When our new service, the online map linked to monitors, is launched, it will enable our customers to be better informed and understand where and when sewer system overflows are occurring. We are delighted to be delivering on both of these." The installation of the new monitors comes ahead of Scottish Water's first online overflow map being launched, showing near real-time data from the monitors. Bosses say this will go live shortly. The interactive map will provide information on when an overflow is operating and where recent activity has occurred, using data gathered by the monitors. In 2021, Scottish Water committed to installing new monitors on its overflows as part of its Improving Urban Waters route map. Acting Cabinet Secretary for Net Zero and Energy, Gillian Martin, said, "I'm delighted Scottish Water has delivered on its Improving Urban Waters route map commitment to install 1,000 new overflow monitors by the end of this year. Our waterways are in good condition. SEPA classifies 86.5% of our water environment as high or good quality. This is up from 82% in 2014, and the sustained investment made by Scottish Water across the period 2015 to 2021 has been a key driver of the improvement. This built on the significant investment delivered in relation to the treatment of wastewater since Scottish Water's formation in 2002. However, we are not complacent and want to see this improve further." And that article was written by Steph Braun. From the National, Wednesday the 11th of December 2024, from the news section. Police find body in search for missing woman stuck in estuary mud. Article written by Adam Robertson. A body has been found in the search for a missing woman who had gone for a walk on the Solway estuary but phoned to say she had got stuck in the mud. Formal identification is yet to take place, but Police Scotland said the family of Shona Campbell has been informed. Campbell, 74, was staying at the Mosside Caravan Park in Cummertrees, but had not been seen since the alarm was raised at about 5 p.m. on Monday. It is understood Campbell made the call to report getting into difficulties herself. A spokesperson for Police Scotland said, around 5:40 on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024, the body of a woman was located in the Solway Estuary, Cummertrees, Annan. Formal identification has still to take place. However, the family of Shona Campbell, 74, who was missing in the area, have been informed. The death is being treated as unexplained, but not believed to be suspicious, and a report will be sent to the Procurator Fiscal. The search involved a number of emergency services, including the Coast Guard, who said its search and rescue helicopter from Prestwick was called out about 5:15 p.m. on Monday. Members of the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service and Nith Inshore Rescue also assisted with the search. And that article was written by Adam Robertson. From the National, Wednesday the 11th of December 2024, from the Politics section. Scottish churches urge MSPs to back free bus travel for asylum seekers. Article written by Adam Robertson. Churches have banded together to urge MSPs to avoid pitting vulnerable groups in society against each other and recommit to providing free bus travel for asylum seekers. The call comes as the Scottish Tories plan to force a vote in the Scottish Parliament on Wednesday on the Scottish Government's plans to extend free bus travel to asylum seekers. The policy was brought back in the budget last week, having previously been scrapped as a savings measure. The Church of Scotland and the Scottish Catholic Church have issued a joint call to MSPs to back the policy. The churches urged MSPs to resist attempts to divide our society and instead show support to people who have come to Scotland seeking sanctuary and new beginnings. Emma Jackson, Church of Scotland Public Life and Social Justice Group convener, said, "I would really urge all our politicians to use language which upholds human rights and human dignity for everyone in our society. The racist violence and riots we saw over the summer pitted communities against one another. While our political leaders may robustly disagree about particular policies, we look to them to use language that is anchored in dignity, respect and compassion for everyone." Jill Kent, Justice and Peace Scotland chairperson, said, "The encouragement and solidarity we can show in our political debates to those who find themselves on the margins is as important as ever." MSPs voted in October to support the return of the scheme by 68 votes to 27, with 20 abstentions in a debate brought by the Scottish Greens. Scottish Tory finance spokesman Craig Hoy previously called on MSPs to back their move to block the policy and said only his party is on the side of the public on the issue. He said, "The SNP and the other left-wing parties at Holyrood are completely disconnected from Scots and believe this policy is the right thing to do. We disagree. The £2 million earmarked to dish out free bus passes to asylum seekers would be better off giving thousands of Scots pensioners a winter fuel payment right now." Scottish Greens Social Security spokesperson Maggie Chapman earlier accused the Tories of using the rights of people seeking asylum as a political football. She said the change is a small and compassionate step that will make a big difference to the lives of people who have been forced into state-sanctioned poverty. Chapman added, "The Tories are using the rights of people seeking asylum as a political football. It is a transparent attempt to fan the flames of hate and division in a bid to win far-right votes from reform." A Scottish Government spokesperson said previously, "Extending free bus travel to people seeking asylum would support those who receive very limited support for living costs from the UK Government while waiting for an asylum decision, enabling them to access essential services and to contribute to their local community. This is set out as part of the 2025 to 2026 Scottish Budget, which delivers record investment to improve our NHS, provides universal winter heating support for pensioners, puts in place the mechanism to end the impact of the two-child cap, and increases investment in housing to deliver at least 8,000 new homes." And that article was written by Adam Robertson. From The National, Wednesday the 11th of December 2024, from the Politics section. Scottish Labour panned as MPs failed to take part in debate on energy. Article written by Adam Robertson. An SNP MP slammed Scottish Labour for failing to take part in a debate on Scotland's energy on Tuesday. Dave Duggan, the SNP MP for Angus and Perthshire Glens, spoke out about the issue in the Commons as members met to discuss the finance bill. Much of the debate included discussions on energy security, as well as issues such as windfall tax and the impact of GB Energy on Scotland. Speaking in the Commons, Tory MP for Gordon and Buchan Harriet Cross was discussing the importance of the oil and gas sector, pointing out that 82% of direct jobs in the oil and gas sector are located in Scotland. At this point, Duggan asked, "Is she, Cross, disappointed, as I am, that not a single Scottish Labour MP has turned up to take part in this vital debate?" Cross replied saying that it was extraordinary that they are not here to stand up for their main industry, and that it shows how much they value or care about jobs across Scotland. However, Labour MP for Early and Woodley, Wan Wang, hit back at Duggan, saying, "I will forgive, for a moment, the honourable member for Angus and Perthshire Glens for perhaps not recognising my honourable friend, the member for Hamilton and Clyde, Imogen Walker. I know that an awful lot of new Scottish members were elected in the last general election, and it must be difficult to learn all their faces. I ask the honourable member to reflect on the possible reasons for the election of a record number of Scottish Labour members, while he sets about learning their names and faces." Walker was indeed in the Commons at the time, although Duggan was quick to point out that she was acting in her role as Parliamentary Private Secretary to Rachel Reeves, and was therefore not directly taking part. She is not noted as having made a contribution in the Commons at all during the debate on the official transcription on the House of Commons website. Duggan said, "The honourable member for Early and Woodley, Yang, called me out regarding my perfectly legitimate comment that there was not a single Scottish Labour MP in here. I chose my words carefully, taking part in this debate. I appreciate there is a Labour member here who, unless I am very much mistaken, is fulfilling the role of a parliamentary private secretary and therefore will not be taking part in this debate. I ask your guidance, Madam Chair, on whether it is legitimate to call somebody out in a debate and not give them an opportunity to respond. I tried to intervene on the Honourable Member for Earley and Woodley to correct the record, but she refused to give way. How can we correct the record to underline the fact that there is not a single Scottish Labour MP in here taking part in this debate on Scotland's energy? Duggan also took to Twitter/X on Tuesday afternoon to share a clip from the debate, along with the caption, "Zero. That's how many Scottish Labour MPs turned up for this afternoon's vital debate on Scotland's energy future. Totally taking voters for granted. Classic Labour." And that article was written by Adam Robertson. From the National, Wednesday the 11th of December 2024, from the news section. Growing concern for girl, 13, missing from Midlothian. Article written by Adam Robertson. Police have said concerns are growing as they search for a 13-year-old girl reported missing from the Pathhead area of Midlothian. Inquiries have established that Salsabil Bukelia travelled to Edinburgh and she was last seen on Tuesday, December 10th, around 9:25pm on Lady Road, having left the Cameron Toll shopping centre. She's described as being around 5 feet 4 inches, of slim build with long brown hair, and was wearing a long-sleeved grey top with black lettering on the front, black trousers and white trainers when last seen. Sergeant Ross Dunn said, "Concerns are growing for Salsabil, and it is important we make sure she is safe and well. We are asking anyone who has seen her or knows where she might be to get in touch. Anyone who can help is asked to call Police Scotland on 101, quoting reference number 3029 of Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. And that article was written by Adam Robertson. From the National, Wednesday the 11th of December 2024, from the politics section. Keir Starmer says UK will play a more active role in Middle East. Article written by Adam Robertson. Keir Starmer has said the UK will play a more active role in the Middle East, following the collapse of the Assad regime in Syria. It comes as the Prime Minister also said no decision has been made on whether to remove a leading Syrian rebel group from the UK government's prescribed terrorist list after its victory over Bashar al-Assad's forces. Alongside the US and other allies, the UK is considering whether to remove HTS, the rebel group which led the offensive against Assad, from its prescribed list of terrorist organisations. Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Pat McFadden, said the UK government would consider removing the group, although speaking from Riyadh, the PM said, "No decision is pending at all on this. It is far too early. At the moment, the focus has to be on talking to our allies, making sure that this is an opportunity for Syria," he said. Starmer has been visiting the Middle East as part of a bid to shore up ties and encourage investment, promising the UK would play a more active role in the region. He said, "From cutting the cost of living for hard-working British people to building resilient supply chains or supporting communities in Britain, what happens in the Middle East matters at home. That is why we are strengthening our defence partnership with Saudi Arabia, protecting the vulnerable in Syria, supporting our partners in Lebanon, and working with the international community to push for a ceasefire in Israel and Gaza, secure the return of all hostages, and accelerate aid into Gaza." Starmer also announced a further £11 million in humanitarian aid for the most vulnerable in Syria, with hundreds of thousands displaced by the conflict. He continued, "To deliver on my plan for change, we need a strong foundation of security, but that cannot just be built at home. It requires us to play our part on the world stage to support stability and protect partners from threats both now and in the future." As well as vowing to play a more active role in the region, Starmer also said the UK would seek to strengthen the defence cooperation with Saudi Arabia. And that article was written by Adam Robertson. From the National, Wednesday the 11th of December 2024, from the news section. Donald Trump enthusiastic about Scotland visit, says John Swinney. Article written by Adam Robertson. John Swinney has said that Donald Trump indicated a willingness and enthusiasm to come to Scotland during the pair's phone call on Tuesday evening. The First Minister said he spoke with the President-elect on a range of topics, including the Scotch whisky industry amid concerns about the impact of Trump's proposed tariffs. Swinney previously came in for criticism after congratulating Trump on his US election victory, with the Scottish Greens having said any visit from him should be met with protests. The First Minister disclosed he had spoken to Trump, whose company previously hit out at Swinney for backing Kamala Harris in the US election, to congratulate him on his US election win and discuss ties between Scotland and the US. While he said they did not specifically discuss tariffs, Swinney did say he raised the importance of the whisky industry for Scotland and the export markets in the United States. Describing their phone call, Swinney told LBC, "I set out the importance that we attach of the economic connections, particularly around the Scotch whisky industry between Scotland and the US. We did of course talk about golf, as the home of golf is very important to President-elect Trump, and he expressed admiration for Scotland and the character and the identity of the country." Asked specifically if Trump intended to visit Scotland again, Swinney said the President-elect had not shared his plans, but he had indicated a great warmth for Scotland and his willingness and his enthusiasm to come visit Scotland. Eric Trump has recently said his father intended to visit Scotland next year for the opening of a new golf course at his resort in Aberdeenshire. On whisky specifically, Swinney said, "It's vital that I convey the importance of the industry to Scotland, and I've done that tonight." The Scotch Whisky Association has previously estimated that US import charges imposed during Trump's first term as president cost the industry around £600 million in exports. And that article was written by Adam Robertson.
This is from The National on Thursday, 12th December 2024. From the comment section. Shetland has a new £600 million wind farm. Why are power cuts still a fear? By Dick Winchester. In December 2022, a major winter storm hit the Shetland Islands and nearly 4,000 households lost their electricity supply as overhead power lines collapsed under the weight of snow and ice. Some ended up without power for nearly a week, despite extra engineers and additional generators being brought in from the mainland. Extreme weather events are becoming increasingly common as the atmosphere continues to warm and hold more moisture due to our failure to cut back enough on the release of greenhouse gases. Whether snow here in Scotland or extraordinarily huge amounts of rain in Europe, it's all caused by the same climate mechanism. Some people in Shetland are well prepared with oil and gas stoves and portable generators. Where I live in Aberdeenshire, we've experienced power cuts of up to a week. So our house is fitted with a wood-burning stove, an LPG hob and shortly a small generator that can keep our oil central heating, a few lights and the fridge freezer all running if we need to. It's not ideal because these are all greenhouse gas emitters, but we've found they're an essential part of surviving Scottish rural living. Whilst all this was going on, Scottish and Southern Energy, SSE, was working on the development of a massive Shetland Viking wind farm. Now complete, it's started generating electricity in June 2024, but only reached its full 434 megawatt capacity in September. Now, logic would dictate that this brand of spanking new 103 turbine, nearly £600 million wind farm with its Danish manufactured and installed high voltage direct current £660 million subsea connection to mainland Scotland would be solving the problem of power cuts for Shetlanders forever, especially given it's capable of generating some 10 times Shetland's entire current electrical demand. After all, it doesn't seem unreasonable to expect that in designing a £1.2 billion electricity generating system for a fairly remote island group, energy security and resilience for the islanders would be considered a priority, especially as Shetland Council has been involved as a partner of sorts. Sadly, of course, this wasn't the case, as Shetlanders are as vulnerable to power cuts now as they ever were. A community benefit payment of £2.2 million per annum will have no impact on that. Yet there are another 3 wind farms in Shetland being planned by the Norwegian state-owned company Statkraft. Called Mossy Hill, Beofield and Energy Isles, none of them look set to solve the security or resilience problem either. Why not? There is, however, a 70 megawatt battery backup system that's built to provide stability and support to the electricity network in Shetland. But it is not being built to help islanders in the event of another major storm-induced power cut, but to help ensure that if for some reason the wind farms go down, then it would provide sufficient energy to keep the grid going until the old diesel generating plant in Lerwick can kick in. To add insult to injury, SSE has apparently already paid £10 million by the government for its first month of operation, which is 3 times its contracts for difference bid price, and yet discarded more than 60% of its output, according to new data analysis by the Renewable Energy Foundation. This is because the grid couldn't initially deal with the additional supply. This is known as curtailment and is an increasing issue with wind. So, effectively, money for nothing. With a little foresight and a policy which puts the needs of the consumer first rather than the privatised or state-owned electricity supply companies, this wasted energy could have been put to good use. For example, producing and storing hydrogen long-term for use by individual households or small communities, which they could then turn back into electricity via a fuel cell. Not science fiction. Other countries are already doing this. In Sweden, there are several houses that are actually producing their own hydrogen using solar energy. In fact, there's a preschool in Sweden that produces and stores up to 40 megawatts worth of hydrogen for use in the winter months. In Germany, I know of at least 2 companies that now manufacture off-grid systems that generate and store enough hydrogen to run a heat pump as well as everything else in your house, and they're selling them as fast as they can build them. You can argue about exactly how the technology should be configured. For example, should the hydrogen be produced centrally and delivered to where it's needed, or should you produce it yourself? It could be made using solar, wind, or perhaps the Scottish company Nova Innovations' tidal turbine farm in Shetland, which is already operating. There are lots of ways to make this work and ensure that consumers are protected from the impact of storms and also from what the Germans call Dunkelflaute, a period of little or no wind or sunlight, making electrical generation impossible. It's well known that Shetland can suffer from power cuts, so why on earth wasn't a mechanism to deal with them made part of the agreement between the Shetland Island Council and SSE and Statkraft? The technology exists, but the will to apply it and make life more secure for islanders and others doesn't. We need stronger leadership and more people with vision to make that happen. The needs of the people over the corporations must come first. It should be front and centre of every renewable project's aim. I hope other islands and communities will take note. That article was by Dick Winchester. This is from The National on Thursday, 12th December 2024. From the Culture section. Quality Street fans slam favourite Golden selection as worst ever, by Andrew Smart. Quality Street fans have slammed the brand's worst chocolate selection. The favourite Golden selection, which includes only toffee fingers and caramel swirls from the Quality Street selection tins, was said to be the enemy of anyone who doesn't hate having teeth. In a post shared on Reddit, a user said, "These are arguably the worst lot out of the entire selection. I feel they are actively mocking us." Others were quick to share their takes, with one person responding, "These were so bad that my family members call each other the toffee penny as a result." One Quality Street fan shared their ideal selection, writing, "Why, oh why do they never make a green triangle package?" Another user was quickly to respond, telling the poster, if they made a green triangles and caramel barrels, it would be essentially a license to print money. However, many others were quick to defend these chocolates, with one user writing, "Those are the best of the Quality Streets. What are you on about?" In response to this, a detractor asked, "Do you hate having teeth?" Hitting back at the original poster, another chocolate lover said, "I've never seen a post so confidently wrong in my life." This hearty debate comes after Quality Street announced that it had discontinued a fan favourite chocolate bar. Taking to social media, a customer asked why they could no longer find the Collisions chocolate in stores. The bar was described as a combination of indulgent caramel, smooth hazelnut and crunchy hazelnut pieces. The chocolate lover posted, "Has the Collisions bar been discontinued? I can't find it anymore. It was my favourite chocolate bar of all time." A Quality Street spokesperson replied to the post saying, "Unfortunately, it wasn't as popular as others in the range, so it's been discontinued." That article was by Andrew Smart.
That concludes this week's edition of the National Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Tune Review and to tell your friends about our service.